Ko Ngāti Kahungunu me ngai tā manuhiri, tā rātou iwi. Ko Helen Collins, tōku ingoa. No te waipauna mua hau, engari e noho ana au i te reo o Purirua i naine. Ko Karina te kura, nō reira ngā mihi nui, kia tātou katoa. Kia ora koutou, I'm Helen, and I'm not here today as I quote one of New Zealand's leading experts discussing the potential of the curricular to support, challenge and enhance children's learning post-national standards. I'd like to be one of New Zealand's leading experts, that is, but I'm not. We've all heard this morning from Jodie Hunter, who along with Bobby Hunter are the experts. Mai taki mata to you both. I feel very lucky that the tamariki I teach, my own children and I, are part of a way of learning that I really believe in. I'm the proud mother of 3 children, ages 15, 12 and 11, and I currently co-teach in a year 6, 7 and 8 class. I am not an expert practitioner in DMIC maths yet, but as a teacher of 28-ish years and a mum, I do feel qualified to talk about inclusion/engagement. I'd like today to share some stories, both personal and professional, about DMIC maths and inclusion, about how it enables all students to learn, about how it supports, challenges and enhances teaching and learning. 3 years ago, I joined Karina School in Waitangirua, Purirua East, and brought with me my younger 2 children. When we joined Karina, they were 6 months into taking on DMIC maths. I did have some inside information, however, what was in store for me. My sister Kate had been teaching for many years at Karina before I arrived. She's world famous within our family and our Karina School whānau for her complete dedication and passion for teaching and learning, and her commitment to doing what's best for our tamariki, their whānau and our community. So DMIC maths was, despite being really challenging for her, right up her alley, and I had been ear-bashed with every step of her journey while we were out jogging, during family outings, extra long sessions in the school holidays. There were phone calls full of wonderings and very honest accounts of epic fails. All of this for most of the 6 months prior to joining Karina. I actually felt I knew Bobby and Jodie personally. Despite all this, when I started in term 3, 2015, with a new class of year 2-3s, it was all on. The best advice I had was to put my trust in DMIC. I actually think of your t-shirts now. We have "In DMIC we trust," we could wear at Karina. And also to throw myself in. Yep, that and get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Karina School is a decile 1A school with around 78% Pasifika, 20% Māori and 2% Syrian, Southeast Asian and a couple of Pākehā students. The last statement on this slide sums up for me how the DMIC model addresses the significant problem of not meeting many of our students' needs in the past. The stories I'll share today show how inclusion means these students can have their learning needs met. They can be and are expected to be part of a learning community. For us at Karina, inclusion has to acknowledge the complexity of diversity. That is, the diversity even within the 78% Pasifika is huge. In DMIC, for our practices to be inclusive, we need to create maths problems that include youth culture, sport, which is hugely significant for our whānau, ethnicity, of course, and religion. What the DMIC model has helped me understand is that we need to really actively know our learners, their whānau and community, to be genuinely culturally responsive and inclusive and not make assumptions. And I think, Jodie, you spoke to that when you talked about this being hard work. This is hard work. I'd like to share with you a story from my daughter's maths learning last year that her teacher shared with me. Henerangi is 11 years old. In our school, and especially in the DMIC model, she is encouraged and nurtured to bring her unique perspective and way of being a mathematician to the mixed ability groups she works in. She is a Down syndrome 11-year-old mathematician. Henny was in a group who were trying to figure out 3 times 4. One person said that 3 times 4 was 12, and Henny said, no, it's 7, see? She showed her fingers, 3 and 4, and showed that it equaled 7. Another boy in the group said, no, Henny, you're wrong, Promise is right. It's possible he was saying that because he didn't want to listen to Henny, and her status wasn't high in that group, and Promise's status is higher. The teacher stopped the group and was able to raise Henny's status because she was proving exactly why she thought 3 and 4 was 7. She was explaining and showing the group. So then Fa'asao was able to change his mind. He saw her explanation and said, I changed my mind. Henny, you're right. We were then able to go back to Promise and for her to notice what Henny had done. She said, Henny, you plussed them, but I put a times symbol. So when you times them, you need to count in 3s, 4 times. That's what I meant. And Henny was able to say, oh, okay, I changed my mind too. You were timesing them, not plussing them. Fa'asao was able to see that both people showed their thinking and proved why they were good mathematicians by showing how they knew what they thought. Explaining, showing, proving, noticing, persevering, changing my mind. Hinerangi is expected to be part of this, and she intentionally has her status raised for her maths thinking, not just for a correct answer. I've added on another little shorter story about Hinerangi again in a different maths group, just because I think it has a slightly more human side, shall we say. Okay, a group had made 23 on an abacus, and Henny said it was 30. She kept saying, as she slid over each row, 10, 20, 30. Lepali and Daniel were very kindly trying to explain how it wasn't 30 because the last row only had 3, but it would be 30 if there was a full row. I just need to add in here, Hinerangi is well known for being sure when she is right. She can be very determined, that's a euphemism, when trying to convince you. Her auntie has long said the extra chromosome is a negotiating one. Finally, Henny changed her mind, but when I tried to get her to explain, she wasn't fully able to explain how she knew it, but she did change her mind. We're still not sure if she was convinced by the mathematical explanation or just worn down by so many people telling her. This story, shared by another teacher, talks about how the DMIC model has seen a gorgeous wee man grow in front of our eyes. Mackie is an 8-year-old Māori boy with a speech impediment. It's quite serious. He has low status both academically and socially. He is beginning, however, to see himself as a learner, and this means taking risks. Mackie was working in a group with 3 girls, and they were working on the second part of a maths problem. They had already found the area of a tivaiwai and were working out how many 25 centimetre squares they would need to make it. One girl had drawn a 1 metre square, and then she was called out of the classroom. The group was now in the pit. They didn't know what to do next. It goes on, the teacher that shared this with me, about what Mackie decided to do, which is actually really quite clever mathematically. And in the end, he, along with his group, semi-solves the problem. When they're reporting back, the teacher said to him, well done, Mackie. By splitting the square and then using your knowledge of making 100, you've worked out how many 25 centimetre squares in a 1 metre square. You took a big risk sharing your ideas and working it through. Here, the teacher assigned competence to raise the status of Mackie. He smiled and his eyes lit up. Others in the group looked surprised, and suddenly they sat up and listened to him repeat what he'd done. Shortly afterwards, the groups were brought back together to discuss the problem. The teacher said that Mackie had a clever idea and had got his group out of the pit. Intentionally noticing and publicly praising the student encouraged a shift in his peers' expectations of him and of himself. Mackie proudly explained his ideas. Who can be successful in maths? Mackie can, and Henny can. I'm going to play a video clip that my sister Kate made for an assignment about DMIC and collaboration but to me it illustrates inclusion just as much as collaboration. In this video, you'll see a student from our class who is elective mute. He is required to contribute his maths thinking to his group, and to share his group's thinking and problem solving back to the larger group. We often talk about maths smarts as either status building or assigning status to aspects of maths learning other than just having quick recall. Last week, I reminded him of his maths smart, that he is great at representing his group's thinking mathematically, something he can do without speaking, and that he needed to come and take the whiteboard marker without being asked and record his own thinking or his group's thinking on the board. This is actually aspirational, as he is painfully aware of the effects of his choice not to speak and would rather chew razor blades and come forward voluntarily. However, our ethic of care means that we would not be showing him the love and respect we have for him if we didn't have the expectation that he will participate. He is also required to show respect for his learning group by taking responsibility for contributing. On the video clip, you will also see and read the reflection of a student who could be classed as having special learning needs. He sees himself as a mathematician. He knows his strengths and what maths smarts he brings to his group. I'm hopeful, probably unrealistically, that this is still the case now that he's moved to college and is no longer learning in the DMIC model. Visitors to our school couldn't identify him as the member of his group with special learning needs.
At Corona School, all students work in mixed ability groups to solve challenging maths problems embedded in culturally relevant contexts. For 3 years, we've been working with Dr. Roberta Hunter and Dr. Jodie Hunter to develop a mathematical inquiry community called DMIC. The students see these problems as worth solving and relevant to their lives. As a result, they are fully engaged in solving the problems. The students are proud of the fact that they are the experts when we discuss the cultural context for the problem. The problems are challenging and require a range of strategies, skills, and group norms to be used. There are no passengers on the waka. The work is interdependent as all students must participate in order for the team to succeed. Our Year 6, 7 and 8 students collaborated to solve a Level 1 NCEA problem that Year 11 students struggled to solve. They did it. The students have a clear understanding of their shared responsibility to solve the problem as a group. All have a role to play. These are the criteria they have decided they need to use to collaborate effectively and to reflect on how well they have collaborated. The students may be in the pit, which means that they are struggling to solve a problem, but they persevere and support each other, because in the end, when the group succeeds, their understanding is extended and their learning enhanced. The group has to be prepared to share their conjecture and the way they chose to solve the problem with half the class. The responsibility for doing this is shared. All group members must explain what they did clearly and confidently, step by step, and justify the decisions they made. They must also share what the numbers they talk about represent in the context of the problem. The students observing and listening make connections to their own conjectures. They also repeat, revoice, ask for clarification, challenge, agree, and disagree, which we call friendly arguing. This is a Year 6 student's learning blog. As a result of the collaboration, she can share how her group solved a problem. She can explain the process her group went through. She can reflect on her own ability to collaborate. Through collaboration, Corona School students see themselves as competent mathematicians.
There is a lot of talk about the problem of educating our tamariki for a future that we can't be sure of, and the uncertainty of this. I think it's fair to say that we haven't been doing the best job of this. What we've been doing hasn't worked so well. My belief is that this uncertain future is going to need us to be collaborative problem solvers with strong key competencies and group norms, not competing with each other and being assessed in a one-size-fits-all system. We'll need to foster teaching, learning, playing and working environments where there are the values of belonging and being invested. We often use the phrase, everyone is on the waka, which I think is really apt. And in my mind, there's a picture of everyone being valued for the strengths they bring to move their waka forward. This to me is inclusion, and it is mirrored in the DMIC core beliefs. Valuing everyone's strengths and genuinely believing that everyone can be a successful contributor is the bottom line. He mihi nui ki a koutou katoa.